It starts with a flicker, a glint against the black, a phantom trace streaking across the sky. You wouldn't have noticed it, not with the naked eye, not even with your finest backyard telescope, but someone did. Somewhere atop Mauna Kea, a deep sky array blinked in confusion as its automated detection systems triggered an alert, something fast, something wrong. And then the phone lines lit up across the planet. The South Africa, Chile, Spain, Australia. The world's skywatchers didn't need convincing. The signature was there. It was real. A new object had entered our solar system. But this wasn't just another rock. This was something else. If you're still watching, subscribe now. You crave more than answers. You seek what lies beyond. Subscribe now and be part of the few who never stop searching. August 2025. The object appears suddenly and unmistakably on infrared scans blazing across the edge of the solar system on a hyperbolic trajectory, moving far too fast, reflecting far too much light, and doing neither of those things in any way that matches known behavior. It doesn't behave like a comet. It lacks the coma, the tail, the outgassing. It doesn't wobble or spin like an asteroid. And its path isn't quite right. You see, celestial bodies follow rules, Newton's rules, Kepler's rules. Gravity bends their path, but doesn't let them cheat. This object, it bends the rules, subtle, almost imperceptible, but unmistakable to those who watch the stars for a living. It's accelerating, without a visible cause. Within days, the James Webb Space Telescope is tasked to track it. And when Webb locks on, 30 days into its inbound trajectory, it sees something that stops the entire astronomical community cold. Reflectivity. Not just normal albedo from ice or metal. No. High reflectivity. Controlled. Patterned. The object gleams not randomly, not chaotically, but rhythmically, like a signal. Its surface catches starlight in a way that seems deliberate. Scientists scramble to recheck instruments, but the data is clean. Thermal readings are stable, emissions are low. There's no trail, no flare, no natural explanation for how or why it's moving as it does. And the shape, that's where things get worse. It's not spherical, it's not jagged, it's flat, disc-like, elongated, maybe even hollow. Webb's instruments show something with structure, not natural layering like you'd expect from rock or ice, but panels, asymmetry, internal voids, something that looks engineered. NASA calls it C26 Zeta. Unofficially, they're calling it the Spectre because it doesn't act like it belongs here. Not in this solar system, maybe not even in this reality. It's completely silent, radio silent. No signal, no ping, no emissions, but it reflects like a mirror, and it moves like it knows we're watching. That's when people start to panic. Not on the news, not in the streets, but behind closed doors. Top-level briefings at the Pentagon, emergency sessions at the European Space Agency. Chinese satellites begin tracking it full-time. SpaceX launches a new Starlink orbital suite with directional arrays under military contract, and in the middle of it all, the James Webb Telescope, watching, measuring, trying to find an answer that science hasn't written yet. And one name keeps coming up in the back channels. Avi Loeb. The man who first asked the question no one else dared to in 2017, when Oumuamua made its brief, unexplained visit to our skies. Could it be artificial? Could it be a probe? Back then, the idea was brushed aside. Fringe. Speculative. Unfounded. Now, no one is laughing. Webb records the thermal data next, and it confirms the second shock. This thing isn't just cold. It's stable, not just inert. It's managing heat, evenly, consistently, as if it's internally regulating temperature. Nothing in deep space behaves like that. The outer surface is smooth, but within, faint variations in thermal output, repeating in cycles, like a pulse, not biological, not electrical, something in between. That's when the artificial theories go from laughable to likely. If this object isn't natural, then it was built. And if it was built, then the question becomes, by who and why now? Let's do the math. In the entire history of observational astronomy, Only 3 interstellar objects have ever been confirmed passing through our solar system. Oumuamua in 2017, 2I/Borisov in 2019, and now C26 Zeta in 2025, all within 8 years. Before that, 0. 8 years ago, we couldn't even see these things. Now we're watching them bend physics. It raises a terrifying possibility. What if they've always been here, passing through? Quiet, invisible, because we weren't advanced enough to notice them. And what if something changed, not out there in us? What if our technology, our instruments, our telescopes, our intelligence has finally crossed a line? What if we've become detectable? The UN holds a private emergency forum. NASA, ESA, CNSA, Roscosmos, JAXA. The room is locked. Phones disabled. No press. And still, the leaks begin. Multiple sources confirm that the James Webb team presented an analysis that left the room silent, not conclusive, but suggestive. Inside the Spectre's movement is a mathematical precision, a consistent deviation from its projected path that aligns not with random perturbations, but with known observation windows. It changes trajectory when we observe it, and when we stop watching, it stops adjusting, as if it knows, as if it sees us seeing it. That's not gravity. That's not probability. That's intent. Now comes the part no one wants to say aloud. If it's artificial, and it's observing us, then this isn't an object. It's a surveillance platform, not a message, not a visitor, a watcher, one that never blinks, one that never speaks, but always learns. We used to stare into space and wonder if anyone was looking back. Now the fear is worse. What if they always have been? What if we were the only ones who didn't know? The object passes its closest approach, just beyond the orbit of Mars, still accelerating, still defying explanation, still saying nothing. NASA releases a public statement, measured, technical, and deliberately vague. They describe anomalous kinematics and non-compliant thermal signatures. They call for international cooperation. They say it's likely natural. But behind the scenes, the truth is undeniable. No one knows what this thing is, and time is running out to find out. Because soon, it will be gone. Out of our range. Out of our reach. Back into the void that spat it out. And if we let it leave unanswered, we might lose the best chance we've ever had at learning the truth, not just about it, but about ourselves. What if this is a test? What if this is a breadcrumb? The beginning of a trail? Not a threat, not an invasion, an invitation. And what if we're already late? The James Webb Telescope continues its vigil, its optics focused, its data streams burning. It watches, even as the specter begins to fade into the distance. What does it want? What message does silence carry? Perhaps it's saying this: we found you, we see you. And now, you must decide what to do with that knowledge. No arrival, no landing, no answers, just a visitor from the dark, slipping through our corner of space like a ghost. And with it, a warning, not of danger, but of scale, of humility, of the vastness we pretend not to fear. Because now we know we're not alone in the universe. The real question is, are we still alone in ourselves? And are we ready for the answer that may finally be coming? The specter is gone now, past Mars, past Jupiter, past everything we can reach, sliding silently out of the solar system, just like it came. But it left something behind. Not a crater, not debris, nothing physical. It left behind questions, heavy ones. The kind that don't just challenge science, they challenge identity. Because the object didn't speak, didn't signal, didn't respond. It just was. And in that silence, it said more than we were ready to hear. Some still cling to the old explanations. It's a rock, they say. A strange one. Sure. But natural, random. A fluke. Space is full of weird junk. Cosmic billiards. Celestial pinballs. Every now and then something odd drifts through, and we catch a glimpse. But you've seen the data. You've seen the curve in its path. The heat patterns that weren't supposed to be there. The reflectivity that wasn't random. The way it changed motion when we pointed our instruments at it. You don't need a headline to tell you what that means. You feel it. The unease, the thrill. You know the difference between coincidence and choice. And nothing about this was accidental. The James Webb team knew it too. They just couldn't say it outright. Because the moment you say it out loud, the world changes. The conversation moves from math and mass to motive and meaning. And no one is trained for that. No PhD in astrophysics teaches you what to do when something from another star system responds to observation. No protocol prepares you for heat signatures that pulse like a heartbeat or structures that mirror light in mathematical rhythms. No telescope can explain intention. Back at Mission Control, the analysts were frozen, not because the data failed, but because it didn't. Everything they feared was confirmed. It accelerated when it shouldn't have. Its trajectory deviated from gravity's pull. Its surface wasn't just reflective, it was predictive. Panel-like surfaces shifting orientation, as if adapting to light conditions. Symmetry that changed depending on what angle it was being viewed from. As if it wanted to be seen a certain way. As if it had a face. And then there was the timing. It passed closest to Earth on August 19, 2025. The anniversary of Voyager 2's launch. Coincidence? Maybe. But if it was a message, it was one written in the deepest language of all, pattern. And if it wasn't random, then it was personal. Public reaction has fractured. Some look to the sky with awe. The thinkers. The dreamers. The ones who've always believed we weren't alone. Not because of fantasy, but because the math made it impossible not to believe. Others retreat into denial. No alien craft, no signals, no intelligence, just another rock. They insist, just an unusually shiny one. And still others fear. Because if this was real, if this was built, then somewhere out there, something far older, far wiser, and far more capable is watching. And they didn't come knocking. They just came looking. Like a camera on a reconnaissance pass, like a drone in enemy territory. And they didn't ask permission. They didn't have to. Governments aren't saying much. They're still parsing the implications. How do you reassure 8 billion people that a silent, fast-moving object from interstellar space passed within a few million kilometers of Earth, exhibited possibly artificial traits, and is now on its way out again? You don't even try. You say natural anomaly. You say under investigation. You say international cooperation. But you don't say what they're all thinking. We've been seen, not contacted, not welcomed, not warned. Seen. And maybe that's the most dangerous kind of encounter. Because when something sees you without asking, without revealing itself, it already has the advantage. It already knows what you are. The question is, do you know what it is? Theories erupt like wildfires. An alien probe, a derelict, a seed ship, a machine built by something that doesn't want to be found, only to find us. Some propose that it's not even active anymore. Just a relic, a piece of ancient tech, coasting through space like cosmic litter. Others say it's active, just not active for us. Maybe it was built for another civilization entirely. Maybe we weren't the intended audience at all. Maybe we just happened to be in its way. A cosmic bystander. And what does it mean to be a bystander in the path of something built by minds not our own? The most terrifying possibility. It wasn't the first. Amor in 2017, Borisov in 2019. Both came from deep space. Both behaved strangely. Both sparked brief attention before fading from the headlines. Now, in 2025, a third, and this time we were ready. Not just to see it, but to watch it change. That's the threshold humanity has crossed. We've reached the point where we can observe the observers. We can see the ghosts in our sky. And what we see doesn't look back. Not yet, but it knows we're here, and that changes everything. In the coming months, missions will be planned. Cube, SATs, deep probes, interceptor programs. Not to stop the next one. To meet it, to tag it, study it, ask it questions, even if it can't answer. Because the world knows something now, even if it won't admit it in official briefings. This wasn't the last. Whatever sent the Spectre, if anything did, they'll be back. whether it's 5 years or 50. And the next time, we need to be ready. Ready to observe, ready to ask, ready to go. Private companies are already in motion. SpaceX has quietly filed permits for a high-velocity launch platform, contingent on non-terrestrial monitoring. Blue Origin has redirected funding toward deep solar interception tech. Even civilian networks are forming coalitions of amateur astronomers, AI pattern researchers, quantum physicists, watching the skies together, because no one wants to miss the next one. Not this time. This time we understand what's at stake, not just knowledge, but context, perspective. Our entire species has spent centuries believing it was the center of the story. The Spectre reminded us that maybe we're not even the first paragraph. Maybe we're a footnote. Maybe we're being read. And the James Webb Telescope, it's still out there, still watching, still silent, but changed, because it saw something. And once you see something like that, something that doesn't fit, doesn't answer, doesn't explain itself, you don't go back to the way things were. You don't just look at stars anymore. You look for eyes in the dark. You look for watchers, because they are out there. Not just in science fiction, not just in imagination, but in cold trajectories, impossible reflections, and heat signatures that hum with silence. And now we know. Now we all know. So we wait. Not for a signal, not for a landing, not for a threat. We wait for the next flicker in the sky, the next object that shouldn't exist, the next specter, because space is not empty. It never was. It's full of watchers, and now so are we. They told you it was a rock, the same story, wrapped in different words. They said the data wasn't conclusive, that the strange heat readings could be dust interaction, that the acceleration was likely a statistical anomaly, that the reflectivity, those mirror-bright flashes, could be explained by ice crystals, by tumbling surfaces, by coincidence. But deep down, everyone knew. Because when something from deep space curves toward your planet with a rhythm in its light and a silence in its wake, you feel it. Not with math, with instinct, with the oldest part of your mind that remembers what it means to be prey. And now, just months after the Spectre passed, the sky has changed again. Another object. Then another, and another. This time, there are 5. They appear on long-range telescopes like ghosts caught in headlights, moving fast, too fast, cutting clean across the solar system's edge at impossible angles, hyperbolic trajectories, perfect synchronization, not orbiting, entering. They arrive not in a line, but in a pattern, a grid, a lattice, stretched across millions of kilometers of space, not random, not natural, positioning. The world doesn't panic. Not yet, because panic requires surprise. And this was expected, dreaded, anticipated, watched for, and now it's happening. The watchers have returned. The James Webb Space Telescope locks on first. JWST. Delta Protocol is activated, reserved only for threats or contact events. Its instruments pivot off all current assignments. Mars, ignored. Exoplanet surveys, scrubbed. Deep time cosmology, postponed. Now the only mission is them. The 5. Their shapes blur in optical data, but their movements don't. They're fast, coordinated, and accelerating. The telescopes watch. The ground stations listen. And then one of them changes direction. Not away from us, toward us. A hard curve. A shift in motion no rock has ever made. That's not celestial physics. That's a decision. The object, now dubbed Spectre 2, approaches with mechanical elegance. Not the chaotic tumble of a comet. Not the drunken wobble of a rogue asteroid. This thing is controlled. You can feel it in the data. Its thermal signature is steady. Too steady. Its shape changes depending on how it's scanned. Radar says one thing. Optical says another. Infrared shows smoothness, but spectral analysis shows composite layers. It's as if the object doesn't want to be defined. Or worse, it can't be, because it's not built for us. Not built for observation. Built for something else entirely. At NASA, the control rooms are quiet. Too quiet. No shouting. No chaos. Just breathing, tension, calculations running into the thousands per second. Every satellite, every scope, every ounce of computing power is poured into analyzing this one silent intruder. Spectre 2 passes within 0.1 AU of Earth. Close, very close. And then it does something no one expected. It slows down. No impact warning, no collision trajectory, just a graceful glide, like a glider catching thermals in space, as if the void itself is giving it lift. And then it stops. 200,000 kilometers above the Indian Ocean, it holds position, geosynchronous orbit, perfectly still. And suddenly you understand, this is not a pass-through, this is parking. This is arrival. The military mobilizes. Not just the US, China, Russia, France, India. All spacefaring nations issue joint security directives. Satellites shift. Lasers are readied. Experimental railguns on orbital testbeds receive their first live payloads. But no one fires, because no one wants to be the first to shoot at something that's watching. The object sits in silence, emitting nothing, responding to nothing. It just watches, and we watch back. Then, at 2:37 UTC, on October 11th, 2025, something happens. The object begins to change. Not externally. Not visibly, on sensors. LiDAR shows flickers. Mass readings fluctuate. Spectroscopy goes wild. Gravitational lensing appears, then vanishes. For 3 minutes, the object becomes undefined. And then, one pulse. Not a sound, not a flash. A pulse of radiation tightband. Ultra-low frequency. Just one. Received across every deep space array on Earth simultaneously. Too clean to be noise. Too precise to be nature. It encodes one sequence. We see you. The message is undeniable. Not linguistic. Not auditory, but mathematical. It's encoded in the fine structure, constant in the proton-electron mass ratio, in physical laws that don't change across the galaxy. It's not just contact. It's a statement, an acknowledgement. We're not speculating anymore. We're not theorizing. We've been seen. The world's reaction is fractured. Some weep, some pray, some cheer, others riot. Not because of the object, because of what it means. Every belief system now stands before a mirror. Every assumption about our place, our purpose, our primacy is shattered. Because if we are not alone, then we are one of many. And if they are more advanced, then what does that make us? The United Nations calls an emergency session, the first ever under the new Astrophysical Contact Contingency Charter, signed quietly in 2024 and long believed to be symbolic. Now, it becomes real. Humanity speaks not through a president, not through a general, not through a prophet, but through science. Mathematics, light. NASA, ESA, CNSA, and a coalition of private aerospace firms transmit a single message back to Spectre 2, a reply encoded in gravitational harmonics, transmitted via deep space laser arrays. We are listening. And then, silence. A silence so deep you could measure it. Not hours, not days, weeks. The object does not move. It does not respond, but it does something far more chilling. It duplicates. Senses catch it first. A ripple, a shimmer. A second object forming out of the first, separating like mitosis in the void. A second spectre, identical, but not a copy. A complement. Where one watched Earth, the other turns and points to the moon. The message is clear. A meeting point. A neutral ground. We are not invited to them. They are coming closer, not to Earth. Not yet, but to the moon. And now the countdown begins. A new space race. Not to dominate, but to receive. Mission Artemis Prime is born in under 72 hours. A multinational effort. American boosters, European crew, Chinese orbital arrays, Indian communication relays, Japanese robotics. Private corporations fund the rest. Launch is set for November. Destination, Mare Tranquillitatis, the Sea of Tranquility, the same place humans first stepped in 1969. Now the site of first contact, maybe, if they show up, if they mean to meet us, if this isn't just surveillance, but the start of something greater. But there are fears. Deep, rational fears. What if this is a test? What if they want to see how we react? What if the moon is a stage? What if we're about to be judged? Not by our words, but by our readiness. Because the specters don't speak in terms, they speak in patterns. They move with purpose. They watch with patience, and patience is never passive. It is calculated. So now we prepare, not just for landing, not just for science, for revelation. Because what stands on the horizon is not war, not diplomacy, not discovery. It is something older, greater, something we are not yet ready to name, but we will. When the specters descend, when the lunar dust stirs, when silence breaks, and the watchers finally speak.